Hi, Andrew's mom.
Hi, Mom.
I love you. I also love my mom.
Me too. Thank you for reminding me to moisturize my neck.
Always moisturize your neck. Hello, I'm Steffi and welcome to Steffi's Wine Club. I once again have the beautiful Adonis, magnificent, wonderful Drew.
Once again, that doesn't do me justice, but...
I could never do him justice.
I'm back.
But since last time he was here, we talked about the difference between oaked and unoaked Chardonnay. I thought I'd bring him back to talk about what the F even is oak.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what you're wondering.
Yeah, I don't have a clue. Is oak the only type of wood that's used to make barrels?
That's a really good question. So for wood barrels, oak is what we use for wood barrels. And we use it because it's watertight, but not completely airtight, so it allows a little bit of oxygen, which makes for the deeper color and helps with the flavor, bringing out the flavor out of the oak. But it's not the only thing we age wine in. Millennia ago, the Romans used to carry wine around in clay, and that was really heavy. And when they conquered the Gallic people, there was a tribe there making barrels out of oak, and they thought, wow, that's so much lighter weight. It's still watertight, it can still store everything, and then later they realized what great flavors it brings, and that's when we really started experimenting with oak, was way back when.
Huh.
But still today, oak, obviously we have unoaked wine, like we talked about in the Chardonnay video, unoaked Chardonnay. So we don't only store and age wine in oak, we can also store it in concrete, which is a bit of an older method, but still sometimes used, or the most common now, if it's not oak, it's often stainless steel. There's two types of oak that are most commonly used. Either French oak, or sometimes referred to as European oak. There's a few different types of European oak, because oak grows all over Europe and slightly different variations of oak. But the main difference are between European/French oak and American oak. And the big difference between those are the way it grows. So American oak grows way faster and way denser. So when we're aging wine, it offers a lot of flavor and less oxygen, and it's also harder to work with.
Okay.
So European and French oak is a lot softer, allows in more oxygen, and often takes on a more subtle style of oaking. The best, biggest, most important thing about oak, any type of oak, is something called malolactic fermentation.
What is malolactic fermentation?
I'm so glad you asked. Malolactic fermentation is the process of turning malic acid, which is naturally found in vinified grapes, into lactic acid.
Sorry, what's a vinified grape?
A grape that is being turned into, or has already been turned into, wine.
Okay, great, thanks.
So basically an old grape.
Okay.
Malic acid is the acid that tastes really acidic. It's what gives a lot of wines like Chardonnay that really crisp, vibrant, bright, fresh, citrusy, unripe apple sort of note. Mm-hmm. But when we put it in oak, there's a chemical process where malic acid is turned into lactic acid, and that's what gives oaked Chardonnay and oaked wines in general that very creamy, buttery, caramely sort of texture and flavor.
Cool.
Yeah, when we use oak on wine, we do something called toasting it. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We basically take a flame to the inside of the barrel and we heat up the wood to a certain level that we want. And we can do light toasting, medium toasting, heavy toasting, and those are all going to impart different flavors in the wine. Mm-hmm. So light toasting is going to be a very light sort of coconut, maybe a very subtle vanilla flavor. Medium toasting is what you're going to have most often in sort of a California style Chardonnay or something like we tried tonight, where it's going to be very buttery, very caramely. The sugars in the oak and the sap are going to start to caramelize, and you're going to get a bit more of that caramely flavor. Mm-hmm. And then when you have a heavy oak, a lot of those sugars have been burned up and are gone, and you are left with a very smoky, very coffee, very sort of abrasive oak flavor.
So, I mean, again, I'm not a wine expert, but I feel like I've looked at quite a few bottles. I don't feel like I've ever seen anything on a label of a bottle that says, like, this is the level of toastiness of this wine.
Yeah,
like where do you figure out
you
what that
figure
is?
it out usually through tasting.
Okay.
Or reading about a wine. It's always possible to go onto the vineyard's website and see what the winemaker says about the wine. You might find stuff about toasting there, especially if they really are into different styles of oaked wines. You can always look at your liquor store. Here it's the LCBO. They always have sort of tasting notes accompanying the wine, but any liquor store website should have a couple things about the wine you're buying. You can also just taste it. You pick up on it when you're tasting wine, and you start to notice the different flavors. And when you get really into oaked wines, especially whites, I find it's easiest to start with tasting these differences in something like a Chardonnay, where it's not being muddied up by the other tannins from the grape skin that you would get in red wine and like the stronger, bolder flavors. I find it a lot easier to pick up that sort of subtle differences between toastiness in a white wine at first before you move into trying to figure it out in reds.
And would a typical employee at, say, the LCBO be able to help you with that? Like if I walked into the LCBO and I said, I like medium toasted white wines, would they have like the knowledge base to actually find that for me? Or do I have to do a lot of like my own research to like find those wines?
So that really depends. It depends on how much education that specific employee has. If it's a wine specific store, you might be in a little more luck than if it's just a liquor store.
Right.
But I always find it safest to highlight the flavors you want. So they might not know what medium toast is, but they're definitely going to be able to point you in the direction of a wine that's very vanilla or very caramel or very heavily oaked or very lightly oaked.
Right.
So a lot of people aren't going to see that as a toastiness sort of level if they're not super educated on the oaking process of wine. But they are definitely going to be able to point you in the direction of degrees of oak, and the more toasted it is, the more of that oak flavor you're going to get.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. I'm Steffi, and this has been my guest, Andrew Schneider.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
He knows the drill. Also check out my Instagram at Steffi's Wine Club and email me at steffiswineclub@gmail.com with any questions, concerns, or comments.
Yeah. If you don't have those things, don't email her.
Absolutely not. I don't want to hear your life story. And, of course, until next time, salut!
Salut!